Welcome to the Total Wireless Store, where total confidence awaits.
I am done dealing with data overages.
Don't worry, you got this at the Total Wireless Store. Bring your number and get 15 gigs of data for $50 on the nation's best 4G LTE network. And during our 50% more data promotion, you'll actually get 22.5 gigs for the same price.
22.5 for 50? That's a gig deal.
Data it is.
Discover the Total Wireless Stores and get total confidence. The latest phones, the best network, all at great prices. Ends January 2nd, 2019. Excludes ports from TracFone Wireless Inc. brands. Terms at TotalWireless.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, folks, how you doing? It's Danny Tisdale, and you know what? You already know you're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show, the podcast from Harlem World Radio, and I hope you are doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. I hope, going back a little further, that you had a great Thanksgiving, and I certainly gave thanks for being here and being a part of just what we do. I said last week, right? It's already been 2 weeks. Wow. Maybe it's the leftovers I still have in the fridge that I'm thinking of. But either way, thank you for being with us here today. And don't forget that you can hit us up on Twitter, at HW Mag, Facebook, at Harlem World Magazine, and of course at our website at harlemworldmagazine.com. And, don't hesitate to share with us some of the things that you have planned for the holidays and some of your photos and all that good stuff. And as you know, we like good conversation, and we love having a conversation with Mike McQuillan, that we have on the show. Not frequent enough, but to have some real conversations about real issues that affect us from Harlem to Hollywood, or Hollis, Queens. Mike McQuillan is a former U.S. Senate aide and a Peace Corps volunteer. He served on the NYPD Training Advisory Council. He teaches history and mathematics, and I hope I have this right, at the Exploratory Learning School for Community Leaders in Brooklyn. He'll check me if I'm not. In addition, he is author of an article that we posted recently, and it's an op-ed of what makes social protests. I'm sorry. I knew it was the wrong title, and I wanted to stop myself. It's an op-ed on Have Police Community Relations Improved from Harlem to Hollis. And he has a more important job as a husband and a father of two. As I completely mess up his bio, how are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for making me laugh at the end of the working day. And the first title that you called wrong is a perfect title if one refers to something you and your staff at Harlem World were kind enough to print that I wrote about a previous school project.
That's right.
We're all good with each other. Let's begin.
Thank you. Yes, and we are. And knock on wood, thank God you're finished with your schoolwork day. And, I'm really, I'm always excited about talking to you about this because, we're both political heads and at the same time educators. And, with your article, what were some of the, who were some of the involved in this cycle's program?
Well, first and foremost, my partner, history teacher, his name is Michael Koschel, Kosciol. He's quoted in the article at some length about the philosophy we share, first of all, between us, and secondly, throughout our school, through the Expeditionary Learning Network, of which our school is part, and also the New York City Performance Standards Consortium, which enables our school and others to, instead of giving the Regents exam and instead of obsessing over teaching to a test, are able to teach in a more collegiate case study manner, connecting classroom work to issues that are relevant to the students' lives outside as well as inside the classroom. And that's what this latest project about police community relations is all about.
And as you already know, it's a fantastic program, and I don't see that kind of program in other places. I'm sure it may be, but I don't know of it. What was the genesis of that program? If you know about it, definitely mention. But was that something that you brought to them, or was this program just fit underneath the umbrella of the program you described, and the school ran with it?
Well, as with all successful social ventures, social change ventures that are positive, it takes many people coming together in the form of a web, each one making a contribution, each one complementing the other, matching one's strengths to someone else's need, and vice versa. Because no one, including myself, knows everything. We're all frail human beings trying to get along. Otherwise, somebody would have solved all our ills a very long time ago, and our lives today would be quite different. So, having said that, now, just as we challenge our students to support their claims with evidence, here's the evidence to support mine. First of all, the Expeditionary Learning Network was founded a long time ago by an educational philosopher named Kurt Hahn. Kurt with a K, Hahn, H-A-H-N, for anyone wanting to do a Google search, which I assure you would be well worthwhile. More recently, our school suspends its regular classes for 1 week at a time, once in the fall semester, once in the spring semester, to create space for teacher-designed field research projects. This specific project on police-community relations came about for two reasons. One is Mike and I saw it as the third step in the sequence that Harlem World has covered for us in the past, meaning step one was field research on the question of what makes social protest effective, and in that context, students met with Dr. Hazel Dukes of the NAACP, State of New York organization, Reverend Al Sharpton of the National Action Network. In the second stage, we looked at how does change happen after protest ends, when everybody goes home, when the placards are put away, when people return to their day-to-day lives, and that exposed our students to the fact that there are professional community organizers working all across the city, unglamorous, long hours where people spend a lot of time listening, going door to door in low and moderate income communities, and then trying to strategize to read between the lines of what they are told, as well as being receptive to what they have heard directly, and shape that into some sort of community movement, whether it's a boycott of a ghetto supermarket that's violating consumer laws, whether it's addressing environmental degradation caused by the location of a highway or a toxic waste dump in a particular community, and so on. And so our students learned that there are actually jobs and careers in the field of social change. Now we focused on police-community relations because it was something that many students had privately voiced to us as something they deal with. And one doesn't have to be a rocket scientist to know that young people are still sensitive in an acute way to the idealism that they hear adults like me talk about so often. We're a democracy. We're spreading democracy around the world. Any president will tell us. And yet, so often there are authoritarian structures here at home. Now, the NYPD is an authoritarian structure. It's a militaristic organization. Its officers carry weapons. Its officers from time to time are forced or called to use the weapons. It's also a place where there is a hierarchy from the commissioner on through the various chief and supervisory levels who are responsible for giving orders that are to be obeyed. It's different from the democratic classroom Mike and I are on a mission to achieve, where every voice is heard and everyone's needs can be addressed to the best of our collaborative ability. So the conversation you spoke of at the beginning, Danny, between police and young people rarely happens because there are two different sets of value systems, two different generational frameworks that each brings to the conversation. That's why conversation is so important. We certainly are not the first. This issue has been worked on by people for a very long time. Dr. King spoke of police behavior in minority communities in 1966 in Detroit as what he called the nation's main racial problem, and it goes back before that to the origins of policing and slave patrols historically.
Right.
Having said that, after Colin Kaepernick's Take a Knee protest, Carmelo Anthony, the NBA star, brought a large youth group together with police officers in Los Angeles. 2 Miami Dolphins players did the same. But to my knowledge, there's never been a systematic, ongoing, professionally facilitated exchange. And since we always want to look forward and we always want to be positive in that approach, hopefully at some point what we did can lead ourselves or others to develop a longer-term exchange between a stable group of young people and a stable group of police personnel with a commitment that they would come out with some sort of concrete recommendations that each would agree to live by. That's the hope.
That's and that's a big wish, but you know, I've lived long enough to know that big dreams can come true. So ever the optimist in me, you know, makes that kind of statement, and that's what I love about, you know, the work that you do is that I think with our podcasts, I think we've done maybe 2 or 3 that, or maybe 2 last year's article and then this year's action that turned into an article, and then our podcast. And I love the fact that that you're doing the work that you're doing, because that shows that for every action there is a reaction, and your reaction is a positive one, and especially, you know, gives hope to, you know, the young boys and girls who are in your class and in the teacher who works with you in his class also, and that gives them hope, because certainly they take that with them and share that with other classmates and take that home with them, and says to them that here are things that can be done in that situation. Are there any stories, Mike, that stand out in your mind from some of the students who were involved in the program that affected them? Because I know from, you know, the story that I always give, we did a few years back, you know, how do you respond to frisk, and I've just lost the term here. Maybe you can
stop and frisk.
Stop and frisk.
Is that what
Thank
you're
you.
looking for? Sure.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. And he, in 1 month, said that he was stopped 46 times and frisked. Are there any stories that students shared with you, or were they, like other students, quiet and mostly listening?
Well, you know, as with everything else, as with this work itself, or even with the structure of this broadcast, with your decision as to whom to invite, what the topic should be, and what questions should be exchanged, everything happens in sequence. In the classroom, students often start out quiet, partly because of race. Most of the students are students of color. I'm white, my partner's white, and they are sensitive to not want to offend us in the way that they assume we might react to what they say. At the same time, we're trying to not only say, but to demonstrate through our body language, through our voice tone, through our use of peripheral vision, and through the conversational prompts that we use to try to connect with a kid at the beginning, that we value honesty on our part and on the student's part, and we try to make clear that it's a safe setting in which we can deal with some really hard things from their point of view as well as ours. We function mostly by lines of questioning. A wise professor in grad school once, when I answered a question, said, "That's good, give me more," and took 3 strides closer to me, which forced me to dig deeper. And we always want to teach students that they can dig deeper, and not only in response to our questions, but we're hoping that we're modeling techniques that they can use with each other or in the privacy of their own minds to go deeper. And that's the kind of research we're doing here. So on the one hand, yes, I can tell you over my 18-year career, I've heard countless stories about young people who aren't doing anything wrong being hassled by police officers. I can also explain that one of the things we did in this week of field research was expose students to the Crime and Punishment documentary, an award-winning documentary by the Brooklyn-based filmmaker Steve Meng, which proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the NYPD is using quotas in the field and primarily targeting young African American and Latino young people in order to meet their quotas. It's not just me saying that. The evidence is clear. I first was exposed to this film by my wife Sharon Kosakoff saying, we have to go to this Times talk where Charles Blow of the Times, the noted columnist, is going to interview 12 NYPD officers and a private investigator who filed a lawsuit against their own employer, the NYPD. On the other hand, we've exposed students to the official story by arranging for them to meet the number 3 official in the department, Rodney Harrison, the chief of patrol, in an open dialogue, not a lecture.
Yes, certainly heard the name before. I'm a little familiar with him, but I want to really take a quick station ID and let our listeners know they're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show on Harlem World Radio. And, of course, I'm Danny Tisdale, and you're listening to Michael McQuillan about his latest piece in Harlem World magazine. And, Mike, as I mentioned to you earlier, we're in the second half here, and I was curious. As I mentioned, where do we go from here? You're opening up the bag of goods and letting the students peek in on what's going on and and they are in some ways, from a first-hand experience, know what's going on and now have a sense of history when it comes to what's going on and why they're being stopped and the reasonings and the 411 behind it. What were some of your hopes in going forward with the program? After the program is speaking to the kids in the classroom and life after the classroom. What were some of your hopes of where you would go from here, or where the students would go from here after the class?
Well, I hope that I know that some students have expressed an interest in careers in law enforcement, to make it right, as they put it. That's not a unique thing. Young people before them have made the same resolve. That's why John Jay College of Criminal Justice has been so successful, because it deals with the practicalities and the research of effective law enforcement. But hopefully students sense that there is a greater potential for change, certainly not only because of the week that they've spent with us on this project, but also because thanks to this week and thanks to the fact that the week had enough success and enough relevance in their eyes that Mike and I decided to expand it in our regular classes, and we're now near the conclusion of a second 6-week exploration of police and community relations on an even deeper, more extended level, that students see that they can go into this field and be part of maybe a unique wave of change, because they know not only have the problems of police community relations continued for this decade as well as all of those before, but they're also learning that there are more good people working to try to really stop this trend and change it for the better. And so they've also seen official NYPD training videos dealing with implicit bias training, a Chicago hands-on scenario, harrowing video about how training has changed from PowerPoint lecture to real role play rehearsals under real life stressful conditions, for example. So things are starting to change. Also, the willingness of NYPD officials to engage in an honest dialogue with young people. One Police Plaza, not the easiest building to get into. Takes a while to go through security, but once you are able to be in, there is a great receptiveness to dialogue and a great respect for young people. And we've taken people to the new state-of-the-art New York Police Academy out in College Point, Queens, as well as to One Police Plaza, and hopefully that inspires the NYPD to reach out and invite other groups of young people to meet with them as well.
Yeah, and those are important visits, and just as important as the conversation is. It's important for those face-to-face meetings to realize that our NYPDs and our LAPDs are, there are people behind the badge, and that's always good. So, Mike, I'm just, wondering when you're at home and your eyes are closed and, you're thinking about, how change could happen, and especially with this program, does it ever cross your mind? Do you feel that it's a shotgun? I'm not going to use that analogy.
That's an interesting metaphor, my friend.
I know. It wasn't planned. Is there a multiple approach to solving this problem with citizens and police department, or do you see it more of a single action approach where maybe just this one great person is elected, gets the picture, creates a new legislation, and the problem solved? Any response to that, or that hasn't crossed your mind?
Yeah, I always have an idea, without being an expert on anything at all. I think the real question is, does our society have the will to resolve this issue and some of the other obstacles that prevent us from being the kind of authentic democracy we continue to proclaim that we are? For example, race relations, racism, that's bound up in some of these issues. The other thing I want to mention is militarism in our society. But in terms of racism, we've heard not that long ago a call for a national conversation on race, quote unquote, after the death sequence of police shootings of unarmed African American men, which occurred over the last several years, crossing several summers. And I knew I'd heard that before, so I did some simple research and found out that the New York Times had reported since 1996, on 13 occasions, major public officials calling for a national conversation on race. But nobody has ever set forth how we can have it, where it would start, and what it should cover, and who was going to facilitate it. Although there are a lot of organizations working in the field, there's no unifying thread building this web so there's forward movement. Similarly, King said that spiritual death was threatened for a society that spends more on militarism than on programs of spiritual uplift. And we know for a fact that there's been a militarization of police forces across the country. There was even a case up in New Hampshire during the New Hampshire Pumpkin Festival where the local police department proudly displayed a tank in a small New Hampshire town. Also, we know that partly as a result of the emotional aftermath for this country of the Vietnam War and the first Iraq War, there's been a major effort to pay tribute to the military in the armed forces and the military and police forces. Now, on the one hand, I have the utmost respect like anyone else, but I think I shouldn't have to continually profess my utmost respect. I think I should be able to have it understood that I respect our military and our police enough that I want to improve police-community relations for the sake of the police safety, the police well-being, the police mental health in one of the most stressful occupations I can imagine, not to mention dangerous, as well as the community's interest in safety and mental health. We're all supposed to be one community ultimately. So the question then becomes, do we have the will, do we have the resolve to solve these, or are we going to look in the mirror, take a metaphorical selfie, and continue to say we're the greatest society and the greatest country in the history of the world, and continue to stumble along, and then in another 5 years, when you're a major television broadcaster, you're going to interview somebody else who did a little something on police-community relations like we did, and it's going to be seen as a bigger deal than it really should be.
Well, I hope that I won't complain on the pay increase for being on a podcast with a major network who is sending that salary this way, but I hope it won't be because of some of the issues that we're speaking of today, because I try to be the ultimate optimist, but I'm also a realist, and I can tell you from experience with my brother who retired from a police department that there is quite a bit of work that needs to be done with those men and women who are, out in the field. And, he's an older guy, so he came right out of a war overseas right into the police department. So he brought what he experienced in the field of war to what he was experiencing on the streets of, the city he worked in. And, talking about that, I'm paraphrasing what you said, that there, those officers need work. And now because of what the officers have experienced and some have created the experiences that they have in the street, they need even more work. And now the communities need work themselves. And I really hope that we can, get at this in a very serious way and address the issues that are affecting our communities and affecting the people who are in the community. And, Mike, I've got about 2 or 3 more questions for you, and we've got about 2 minutes left. Are there any emails? Are there any URLs or sites that you could, besides obviously reading your article, the op-ed, Have Police Community Relations Improved, our edition from Harlem to Hollis? Any other information our readers can access and go to continue some of this conversation with themselves and with others?
Yeah, of course, and thank you for asking. First of all, I invite any critique, constructive criticism, any positive ideas and recommendations from your listeners as well. They can reach me at mmcquillan@leaders6-12.org. But President Obama had a task force on 21st century policing that issued a public report of findings and recommendations. In 1968, President Johnson's Kerner Commission, Kerner spelled Kerner, in the aftermath of the urban unrest, so-called riots of 1967 and 68, was commissioned to recommend preventative steps as well as investigate the underlying causes of the violence. Their report is still regarded as a seminal document. I think those are 2 excellent places to start. And I think it's also important to to pay close attention to news coverage of the NYPD. The Daily News particularly does a really good job of substantive coverage in a programmatic sense. For example, with regard to neighborhood policing. And I think of the three major New York dailies, I think they're the most on top of that issue. So I think
Mike,
those are excellent places to start. Thank you, Danny.
Excellent place to start, and it's always great speaking to you, Mike. And with our last 15 seconds, what do you want for Christmas?
Well, I converted to Judaism, so I observe Hanukkah more than Christmas.
Okay.
But for whether it be Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, what they have in common is what I want for us all, which is a recognition of our shared humanity and our commitment that we will work together to resolve these things
Mike.
that keep us apart.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Danny.
it. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye.
It's just 2 weeks out and we've got your gifts at Macy's One Day Sale with over 25,000 deals of the day in-store and online, like PJs for the whole fam, now $4.99 to $19.99. Have a jet setter on your gift list? Samsonite luggage is 60 to 65% off. How about a home chef? Give a KitchenAid Classic Stand Mixer for just $189.99. Tuesday and Wednesday at Macy's. Savings off sale prices. Exclusions apply. Macy's Star Rewards members can earn towards Star Money. Ask your store associate or visit Macys.com/Star Money for details. It's just 2 weeks out and we've got your gifts at Macy's One Day Sale with over 25,000 deals of the day in-store and online, like PJs for the whole fam, now $4.99 to $19.99. Have a jet setter on your gift list? Samsonite luggage is 60 to 65% off. How about a home chef? Give a KitchenAid Classic Stand Mixer for just $189.99. Tuesday and Wednesday at Macy's. Savings off sale prices. Exclusions apply. Macy's Star Rewards members can earn towards Star Money. Ask your store associate or visit Macys.com/Star Money for details.